All right, we've all been there, right? The exam is just around the corner and you're staring at this absolute mountain of stuff to learn. The panic starts to creep in. How in the world are you supposed to memorize all of this? Well, today we're going to break down an incredible technique that basically turns that mountain into a molehill.
So this is what we're up against. 200 pages. Yep, 200 pages of just dense text, super complex diagrams, and those endless lecture notes. It feels like you're trying to climb an impossible mountain, right? Like you're lost in a forest of information, just trying to find your way out before the exam. But this is where we want to get to. Imagine taking all of that intimidating stuff and boiling it down into a super powerful, super focused summary. We are literally going to turn those 200 pages into just 35. Yeah, 35. Okay, so how is that even possible? I know, it sounds like some kind of magic trick, but it's not. It's a method, a really systematic approach that's going to completely change how you process and remember information. So, let's dive in and see how it works. First things first, let's just admit it. The struggle is real. We have all been there, staring at a textbook, feeling completely overwhelmed, with absolutely no idea where to even start. And that stress, it's a massive barrier to actually learning anything. But what if we could just swap all that anxiety for a clear, step-by-step plan? Okay, so the foundation of this whole method is, well, it's just super simple. You don't need any fancy software or expensive gadgets. Seriously, it's all built on a few simple tools you probably have lying around right now, and one crucial first step that kind of flips the normal way of studying completely upside down. So here it is. This is your entire toolkit. A blank piece of paper, your book or slides, a black pen, and some colored pens. That's it. The real power here is in how simple it is. You know, when you use basic tools like pen and paper, you're actually engaging your brain in a totally different way than when you're just taping. That physical act of creating something, that's the first step to building much, much stronger memories. And here's that game-changing first step I mentioned. You're going to start summarizing before you even go to the lecture. I know, it sounds backwards, right? But why do we do this? Well, it forces you to really wrestle with the material on your own terms first. You end up creating this strong personal foundation of what you understand, which you'll then build on later. All right, now for the fun part. This is where we actually build the summary. And look, this isn't just about scribbling down notes. Think of it more like you're designing a visual map, a roadmap for your brain. First up, your main topics. These are like the skeleton of your summary. You're going to write them out big and bold using a black pen. This creates an instant visual hierarchy. The second you glance at the page, your brain just knows what the most important themes are. Okay, once you have your skeleton, it's time to bring the details to life with color. So, you'll assign a specific color for each different category of information. And trust me, this is not just to make it look pretty. It's actually a super powerful tool for your brain. When you color code things, you create these separate mental pathways that help your brain organize and pull up that information way more easily. And don't worry, you absolutely do not have to be Picasso for this next part. Just add little simple drawings or icons next to your key points. You know, like a tiny light bulb for a big idea, or a little warning sign for a key risk. These act as powerful visual anchors. It's so much easier for your brain to remember a simple picture than just a line of text. Okay, so you've got the structure down. It's looking good. But what about those horrible lists? You know the lists of terms that just refuse to stick in your brain no matter how many times you read them? Well, this is where the real magic happens. It's all about the art of connecting. Let's use a real-world example. Imagine you're studying for a medical exam and you have to memorize these 3 toxins: lead, arsenic, and mushroom. Just looking at them, they're just random words, right? So how on earth do you make them unforgettable? Here's how. You turn that boring, abstract list into a simple, maybe even silly little story. We call these mnemonics. It gives your brain a story to latch onto. So instead of trying to remember 3 random things, you just remember one easy sentence. The leader of Arsenal eats mushrooms. See? It's practically impossible to forget now. So that first summary you made, that's a fantastic start, an amazing foundation. But it's not the finished product just yet. Now we move on to the final step, where we're going to level this thing up into the ultimate study tool. This is where your summary really evolves. First, you're going to take that summary with you to the lecture. And while you're there, you're going to add the instructor's extra notes, maybe in a really small font or a different color. Then you take it another step. You go find old exams and you work key points and questions from those into your summary. See how it's growing? It's turning from a simple summary into a complete, comprehensive guide. What you end up with is your single source of truth for the exam. Everything you need to know is right here on these pages. No more frantically flipping through the textbook at the last minute. No more hunting for that one lost lecture note. You've built your own comprehensive, visually organized masterpiece. So after all that work, what's the big payoff? Why does this whole system work so darn well? Well, it all comes down to building what honestly feels like a photographic memory.
Now, let me be clear. We're not talking about some superpower you're born with. Not at all. This is a skill that you build. So when you're sitting in that exam, you're not just going to be trying to pull a random fact out of thin air. You'll actually be able to mentally see your summary page. You'll remember, oh yeah, that note about arsenic, that was in green, up in the top right corner, right next to that little doodle I made.
And the reason this works is because you created it. You're the one who wrote it, who picked the colors, who drew the little icons. You have this incredibly strong personal connection to it. And every single time you review it, you're just making those visual and spatial connections in your brain stronger and stronger, until remembering the information is as easy as just picturing the page. So, you see, this whole method completely transforms studying. It's no longer this passive thing where you're just reading words on a page. It becomes an active process of creation. It really puts you in the driver's seat. So I guess the only question left is, what's the first topic you're going to summarize and conquer using this method?